Hello, Dr. Sabgir. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Rich?
I'm doing fantastic. I saw you're in Brenda's session, so I knew it was going to take a minute or so to get over. So appreciate
Sure.
you being here. I'd like to introduce Dr. David Sabgir. He's a full-time cardiologist in Columbus, Ohio, and the founder and CEO of Walk with the Doc. So I'm going to turn it over to you, my friend.
Thank you so much. I want to make sure, let's see, share my slides. Let's see.
Lower left-hand corner on the
Lower
screen.
left hand. Oh, great.
Screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Let's see.
Hit done on that thing, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, hit done.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Rich.
And
I
then go.
appreciate your expertise.
Hey, it's what we do, brother. All right, we'll see you in a little bit.
Great. Awesome. Please let me know if, but anyway, huge honor to be with all of you today. Thank you. And I'm excited to explain, share the program Walk with a Doc. And please, I guess this will be done to see if you have any interest in the program. We'll, you'll know all about Walk with a Doc by the time I'm done. So this is kind of a rough outline, and I would like to leave questions at the end, but we'll talk through how this all started back in late 04, growth, challenges, we need metrics, and then, of course, how we've collaborated, some hot topics that we'll talk about at the walk. I was looking at the board, and it looks like almost everyone's a doctor. So we'll talk about things we've talked about, and then we'll end with a video that Dr. Craig Kataoka in Hawaii and on the Big Island, Hilo, did for us, which I just love. Can't help but smile. So I did my residency and fellowship from 97 to 03, and during that time, I saw that there were really two paths. There were, patients that were active and thriving in their 80s and 90s, and, would display that by getting down on the floor and doing push-ups and show me how great. I said, I know, I get it. And then there was, unfortunately, a much larger contingent that we all see that really, for one reason or another, weren't motivated to be active, and then dealing with all the things that you've been talking about a lot today and you deal with every day: blood pressure, diabetes, cholesterol, coronary stents, all that. So my thought was, this is going to be easy. We'll just switch. We'll just get everyone being physically active. They don't have to exercise like crazy, but just go for a walk or a bike ride or a swim. I'll just move people from one path to the other. So I'll throw a few stories in here. When we started the walk and it was exploding, I just, with the power of what I've seen with it to this day, I wanted it to be on the biggest airwaves possible, which was Oprah. So I decided that would be wonderful. And if we can't do that, at least maybe we could get a marriage out of it. And sure enough, this is Kim and Karen in Worcester, Massachusetts. They found each other and got married at Walk with a Doc, which I just love. The other thing I was seeing in my patient population was a lot of the patients that weren't active before their heart attack or stent or bypass became much happier after starting cardiac rehab. We all know those reasons: the endorphins, serotonin, dopamine, all the great chemicals that are released when we're physically active. So it was, in a very weird way, it was almost like a blessing in disguise if their heart wasn't too damaged, that they had now found this way of life where they were much happier than prior to this event. So I thought, well, that's one more reason. So I had it all figured out. This was a photo of me taken around 2003, 2004, when I decided that I was going to end heart disease single-handedly and all the other things that were caused by sedentary lifestyle. Oh, so great. And this is in reality what was happening. I would have these conversations with patients, thousands of them over the years, to just, we would talk about all the cardiovascular risk factors and their stent and their surgery. And then at the end, I would spend a lot of time talking about developing a physical activity program. And those conversations felt very valid, fruitful. They were good. I couldn't do any better, and I actually was pretty happy. But then when the patients came back for follow-up, be it 6 or 12 months, I was essentially totally ineffective. So I got frustrated, very frustrated, because I didn't want to spend the next 30, 35 years of my career having these basically worthless conversations, ineffective. And this is what the patients would tell me and still tell me to this day. I'm based in Columbus, Ohio. So the weather, the saying is, I'm sure it is for a lot of you where you live. If you don't like it, just wait a couple hours, it'll change. But that's I just got frustrated from hearing, 6 months of the year you would hear, well, it's been too cold. As soon as it warms up, I'm going to get after it. And then the other 6 months you hear, it's been too warm, but as soon as it cools off, I'm going to get after it. So I just couldn't do that anymore. The other thing, of course, we're all busy. But as we all know, even just a few minutes can make a huge difference. And, if you take those first steps, it can lead to what we all aspire in our patients for 150 minutes a week or more of moderate intensity physical activity. A lot of my patients, it was like almost all of them, say they exercise at work. And if you dig a little further, they are on their feet. And it's better than what I do during the day as a desk job, but it's not really what we would, getting the heart rate elevated where we would like. A lot of people are tired. A lot of people feel that walking is not good enough and they can't run on a treadmill. But, hopefully we all know that walking is essentially equal to jogging or running. A lot of patients feel embarrassed, and some people just may not feel like it. They're in a bad mood, and we know that physical activity can really turn that bad mood around. So started out very simplistically. I knew that physical activity would help with obesity, diet more important, but physical activity being maybe 10% in my experience and the studies I've read of weight loss, and certainly important for weight maintenance. But there's lots of other things that make exercise the magic bullet. As far as cardiovascular, there's a 50% reduction in coronary disease, stroke, heart failure. Those are shocking statistics to me still. We know the importance in peripheral arterial disease. It's the number one treatment for arthritis, huge for COPD. We know about pulmonary rehab. There's 13 cancers that you wouldn't always expect, including blood cancers, that are dramatically reduced with physical activity. Of course, paired with other modalities, it can reduce diabetes risk by 58%. It's huge for osteoporosis. Anxiety, depression go down 47, 48% respectively with regular physical activity. And then if you add an effective medication, SSRIs are effective for a lot of people. That's synergistic, and you can get improvements of up to 70+%. So I truly believe it to be the magic bullet, miracle drug, fountain of youth, all that. If anyone's interested, we have a list of 100 reasons um, why it is so powerful with the link, and we're happy to send that. So out of all that frustration, had a walk. It was a patient in the late fall of '04 where I snapped. I didn't snap on the patient, but I was just like, I can't do this. So I said, how about if my family and I were to join you at the park? Would that be okay? Can we meet and walk? And this, in Columbus, it was early November, that first conversation, and it was slushy and ugly. And we actually had, if any of you are interested, you'll find it's kind of like it was really magical what happened. I was approached by literally dozens of partners and interested parties. And when we finally were getting all that together, it took about 5-6 months. And then we had our first walk with nearly 100 people on this date at this park. And if anyone's familiar, it's on the northern end of Columbus, Ohio. And I'll get into the growth as we go, but it's been a wild ride. Certainly, there are a lot of challenges. Quick story: a international hamburger company based in Columbus wanted this to be blank walk with a doc before we even started, and we went through all the conversations you would expect to have about whether or not we should do that, but we decided eventually against that. But in the process, my cardiology practice hired an executive director. She talked to all these parks around the city of Columbus, and every park system that she talked to, and there were 12, wanted to do the program. And all I had to do was get a doctor for each site. Well, the reason I bring that up is that got me on the phone, calling docs, trying to explain what Walk with a Doc was. No one had heard of it because, we invented it, and then no one wanted to do it, with extremely rare exception. I think I needed, there were 12 parks. I needed 12 docs a week for 48 doctor visits a month, if you will, at the park. And I got one, and that was it. So the short story was we did not do the walk for a year, the year of 2006, just because we could not get any doctors. It took a while, and I'll get into how we've been able to evolve. My wife's not only an attorney, but a nervous attorney, and liability insurance, even though you're just walking in the park, to me, that was absolutely insane that you would need liability coverage. But dozens of attorney conversations later, we have found that it's imperative. So that's something that took a while. Funding, every single nonprofit that ever existed, I think, has had issues with funding, and we're not, apart from that. But fortunately, walking is cheap, and that's something we had to overcome. Awareness has been, we've been very blessed that has grown, but that was an issue for many of the years at the beginning. A challenge we have that sometimes is a blessing is our central headquarters, if you will, is a very small team. It's Rachel Habash, our incredible COO, and Brian Romy, who launches all of our programs, and myself, and I'm a full-time cardiologist. So it's a very small team, and I think it's a major credit to Rachel and Brian and what they can do in starting all these programs. Those have been the challenges. This is Tim Donahue. He, the reason I have a picture of Tim, he did lose 80 to 90 pounds at the walk, which is great, over a couple years. But what I love more is that Tim will come early, and he's a Boy Scout leader. He will get the firewood ready and get a fire going in the colder months. He'll write positive messages and chalk along the route. And he's just a great guy. And these are the kind of people that you meet at the walk. So I've talked enough about the walk without really even sharing what it is. And it's, we have free, everything's free to any participant. They're year round. We encourage each program that starts up to do 12 months. And then we start with a brief discussion. This is, you may notice if you look closely in the Walk with a Doc on their shirt, in the upper right part, there's a carrot top and it says, you can't see, but it says future. So this is one of our 40-some med schools that is doing Walk with a Future Doc. You notice the group is quite young. So we've been very blessed in our growth, and happy to expand on this, but the 600 chapters is fluctuating. We're right around there with COVID. You can imagine, when what we do for a living is bring people together in parks that were closed and not allowed to have groups more than 10 around the world. We, just like everybody else, we took a hit, but we're back stronger than ever, and we've been very blessed to see incredible growth. When we started, I knew, without hopefully sounding arrogant, that this was needed to be part of medicine. I told you that we took a year off, but during that year in 2006, where it just got too much and I was worried about my practice and getting, making sure things didn't get crazy and not being able to get doctors, I knew it needed to be part of the fabric of healthcare. And I know that sounds grandiose, but it's too important. Hopefully I'll be able to relay that as we continue on in the talk. We try and keep things very simple, and these are the 4 components, and I don't think it needs to be more complicated than this. Honestly, I don't usually talk about the education because I feel it's the physical activity. I'm very simplistic. When this was started, it was just to get people moving, and I didn't know about the benefits of social connection in nature. I always knew that it was best to be, if my patients were in a quilt group or bowl, in a league on Tuesdays and Thursdays, that was important. But the data has been very forthcoming, if you will, in the last year or two on the power of social connection. And, while this was started for physical activity, I think you could form a pretty solid argument that the social connection is equally, if not more important. And then also really recent data, very cool stuff. Everyone feels better outside in nature. And now the science is starting to, show us how important it is. And one really cool study from, ironically, Nature in 2019 showed that our dose is about 120 minutes a week or more, which is not that much if you think about it. So that can have huge health benefits, as does social connection. And then, number 2, education. Knowledge is power. Okay, so what's it look like? Who, what, where, when, and why? Well, I've got to the why, but it's really for all ages, all abilities. For Dallas Cowboy fans, the upper left corner, that is Baylor. That's the Tom Landry Center, where they do walk and roll with a doc. Again, huge benefits, even if you're not walking. And we have anyone that is holds the title of doctor, we have leading Walk with a Doc. And then we have another program for, they're a bunch. We get approached by a lot of dynamic individuals that are within the healthcare field, such as, say, a dietitian or a physical therapist that may not be a doctorate. But then we have a program called Just Walk that I'm happy to talk about if anyone's interested. When it's really, we want to show the simplicity, but we also want to show the regularity. We do get approached probably 5% of the requests we get, and we're fortunate right now. We're getting about 60 to 100 requests from around the world every month to get started with these chapters. About 5% of them want to do an annual event, and we're not interested in that. It's all about regularity, and we have very few requirements on the marketing and license agreement, but one is that you host 12 a year. And, certainly, again, if it's, February, it's pretty today here, very pretty, but if it's February 24th in Columbus, Ohio, and there's ice and stuff, we don't want you to do that at that point. We certainly are, not here to, we don't want people walking on the ice. Again, I refer to my nurse attorney wife, but we encourage 12 a year and sometimes doubling up or going inside if necessary. As far as signing in, we also have waivers, and we start with this brief health discussion that is usually very, I want to say, heartwarming. It's just nice to see people together. Almost always people are smiling and very interested in what the leader has to say. As far as picking a location, again, the benefit of nature, we really prefer walking outside, but there are times where indoors is better. An example I use, when we started, we had a day that was freezing cold. We're at High Banks Park now. That first one was Sharon Woods. That was only for the first event. Since then, in April of 2005, we've been at High Banks, my personal walk, and we had 9 people because it was probably 8 degrees outside. And I remember getting one of those coffee travelers. My hand was shaking, pouring it, saying, "This is crazy, this is crazy." We went to the mall the next week and we had 90 people. So I think, it's weighing the balance of being in nature and then, being able to get more people active and moving. The optional components, blood pressure checks are great. And I'll say this is a little weird, but just sitting down with someone, which we're now able to do again, and, putting your hand on their arm, the power of touch, and checking their blood pressure, you can have really kind of different, more meaningful conversations when you're eye to eye than in a group. So we encourage that. The walker impact I'll get to on another slide, but I also want to say I love the walk as much or more than any of the participants. That ability to connect outside of these sterile white walls in an office is huge. And there's so many things that we can gain. And, as you know, we often want the visits to be longer than they can be. So I think that opportunity to connect with our patients and under trees or, outside of the office is huge. And I thought that would just be, maybe I was a little weird and maybe I got more, but as we've had, thousands of doctors lead, I am the average Joe. I always thought I was. Everyone feels that same passion. And we did a valuability study with Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, where we did focus groups on lots of doctors, and we found the same thing. It's just as important for us as for our guests and members. So I'll just go through this. If anyone's interested, this is kind of what we do. Rachel, Brian have it down to a science of getting programs off the ground that are interested. So we are able to talk to 2 or 3 or more every day to get people started. And, we've had, while we have around 600 programs, we've had a couple hundred that have discontinued for whatever reason. So we have experience of starting, 800 or more programs, and we've heard just about everything. And if we haven't, we would love to tackle it with whatever. Liability insurance, unfortunately, is a must. That was cost prohibitive. At one point, it was $500 per walk to manage, which wasn't going to work. Now we have a blanket policy where it's all included, and it's very, very doable. I'd like to think we've honed in on the specific marketing materials, and if we don't have what you need, we can provide it. Webpage, and then there's a lot of merchandise, as you guys see in the pictures. This is a wonderful canvas, if you will, to paint collaborations. And I kind of think of it as a Switzerland, that it's a neutral place where multiple health systems can come together. We have a wonderful partnership with the city of Columbus, and those three logos on the bottom right are Parks and Rec, the public health, and public safety. So walk with a doc and a cop, or a cop with a doc, however you want to call it. And we have a lot of involvement from the Y. It's just a wonderful opportunity to bring people together. This was something we did with the Ohio Hospital Association, and we also we've been working with the state of Texas, their Texas Medical Association, which has 55,000 members. They've been amazing. Been with them for 10 years now. We're also working with Kansas hospitals, and there's a few more on the way. Some of our collaborators, National Parks and Rec, we get a lot of emails from librarians, which I think is really cool. We've been fortunate to work with Rails and Trails, state parks, national parks. We are collaborating with the Haas Avocado Board. It's a wonderful way to bring the world, make it a little smaller. These are the results I was alluding to earlier. As we've surveyed our walkers, this is what they found. I want to draw your attention, if you don't mind, to the heart in the middle. And that's my favorite number, not because it's the highest, but just this concept of pairing healthcare professionals in parks with the community is, if it's something you choose to do, people don't talk about like they like the program. We usually see things in all caps, and because as far as love, and I think I've wondered why over the years, and I think it's the social connection that people love being together, and that's of course amplified by the good feelings we get in nature. And then I think people really appreciate physicians like yourself volunteering their time. That carries a lot of weight. This in the lime green or whatever color that's Dr. Jennifer Honey. She's an endocrinologist in Santa Barbara. And the reason I bring Jennifer up is she has the relationships that we form with the guests at the walk. You can imagine a lot of them are regulars, is strong. And Jennifer has Thanksgiving in her house, and typically has a lot of the friendships have grown so deep that she has a lot of walkers, community members come to her house. And I love that component of it. Again, really the opportunity with partnership is unlimited. These are just, some of the things we've looked at. I mentioned earlier, we're in 40 plus med schools. I really am dying to get to all 145 because I feel these young kids are, not to sound like Whitney Houston, but it really is something that is going to make the difference in the long term. And then we've been, because, back to all nonprofits struggle for money. We don't have a marketing budget. So when we've been very fortunate to be, featured on CNN and some other things that have led to this, 60 to 80 requests a month. And thank goodness for that. Again, no marketing budget. So if you guys don't mind indulging me, we do get a lot of questions at the walks, and we also release a very goofy, almost parody type newsletter on Friday mornings, which we would love to have you sign up at walkwithadoc.org. And that goes out to about 27,000 people. And these are things that they request, they want to talk about, things I'm sure you guys get asked about a lot. So, aspirin that data has been doing a lot of this stuff is on a sine wave, right? One day it's good for you and the next it's not. Right now we're at a point where what we share with our patients is for primary prevention, meaning if you haven't had a heart attack or a stroke, or you don't have blockages, that it's no longer indicated right now. It used to be, they used to recommend it, 81 milligrams, maybe some colon cancer reduction. But right now it is currently not recommended if you've not had an issue. If it's secondary prevention, as you guys know, meaning if you've had a heart attack, stroke, and the data is not as solid with diabetes, then it is absolutely, of course, recommended to be on a baby aspirin. Alcohol. I like an occasional drink that looks like this, and unfortunately, it was okay for a long time until about probably 2.5 years ago, where the data is now not recommending it. There may be a slight cardiovascular benefit, but it is overridden by an overall increase in mortality as not being safe. One of my patients said driving's not safe either, but we all do it. So take it for what it's worth. But we get a lot of questions on alcohol, be it beer, wine with resveratrol, red wine, or spirits. But unfortunately, no longer. I don't like that part of it. So what I tell patients here is that it shortens your life by about 14 years. So we're, of course, we're against it, and we just try and do everything we can in the office. As you guys know, about 2 to 3% of patients will quit just by telling them. So I still, of course, we talk about every time and document it, and that is still important. Fish oil, my practice, I'm in a same group I've been in since the beginning. We used to recommend fish oil like crazy. The data now is not as strong, especially if someone's eating fish once or twice a week. The data with peripheral arterial disease is, as you guys know, a little controversial, but no strong need right now. At least I'm not in my practice, not putting people on PUFAs. But there is some data within the peripheral arterial world that it may have some positive effects. I am personally not in favor of supplements. All the things in those capsules, that can be found in food, absolutely. But I am not a big supplement person. A lot of that is, as we all see, a patient may come in, may have had an MI a couple years ago, and they're not taking their statin, but they are taking their cinnamon bark and milk thistle. And I think it's hard for our patients because they're on huge lists. But if there's data, great. But if not, I shy away from supplements. We do run it. I know this is also controversial. We encourage at least 64 ounces of water a day. Some rules, half your body weight in ounces, or until your urine is almost clear. And again, controversial, but we see a lot of people that are just not drinking enough water, and with that comes orthostatic hypotension, fatigue, unfortunately syncope at times. So it's something that we talk about. And physical activity, all the more in nature. This to me, again, miracle drug. The U.S. guidelines call for 150 minutes of moderate physical activity a week, or 75 minutes of vigorous. What the guidelines show is at 60, there's, I say 60, there's a good benefit, 150, there's a great benefit, and then at 300 minutes, maybe just a small incremental benefit. And it's a tough pill to swallow, to ask for 6 hours of exercise or five hours of exercise a week. So if that sweet spot is really 150, and if you want to do more, great. As far as we get asked a little bit, are there cardiovascular downsides of for the Ironman in the group? And There is a mild increase in atrial fibrillation and other atrial arrhythmias like SVT, but overall, that is outweighed, as one would guess, by all the benefits of physical activity. Again, we love to check blood pressures at the walk if it's, in a COVID safe environment and all that. It's been a little more tricky for all the reasons you know recently. Right now, the numbers are 130 over 85. I encourage my patients to, have a cuff at home and let us know if they're averaging over 130. As we get older, our diastolic pressure will go down a little bit, systolic up, and it's an important risk factor, as we all know. This is Amar in the white hat. He is a regular walker at Walk with a Doc. What I love about Amar is he got into Walk with a Doc, and then he started doing marathons eventually, and not unlike Tim and the weight loss, that is not the exciting part to me. The exciting part is once he became active and got more confident, he and his family started vacationing routinely, or making their vacations to national parks. And, those of us that have been fortunate enough to go to national parks or, state parks, what have you, it's a really powerful experience. And I don't spend enough time thinking about our sedentary patients that just don't have that sense of awe of, yes, certainly you can go to the rim of the canyon in a wheelchair and things like that. And that's fantastic, but it makes it more challenging. You can't go into the canyon or do as much. So I love that he is able to do this, and that's the power of physical activity. Let's see, it's 21 minutes till. Just briefly, HDL, as we know, is the good cholesterol, and we really try and get that number above 40 through, diet, which would be soluble fiber, lots of fruits and vegetables, as you've been talking about. That's a key thing. And of course, physical activity. It's, when we see young patients come into the cath lab and have disease in their 20s and 30s, you can almost bet that their HDL is below 40. And interestingly, there's been certainly multiple attempts at various medication classes to try and get that HDL up, but they can get the number higher, but it's not an effective increase. It just looks good on paper. So whatever we can do with physical activity, fruits, vegetables, and soluble fiber. Of course, LDL, the very important, and statins can be significantly effective. Now we've got these PCSK9 inhibitors, which are Repatha as an example of an injectable anti-lipid medication. And, some of you may have heard about, there's a new one that is injectable every 6 months. So that's just me. And the reason I bring it up is hopefully we're getting to a point where those are not cost effective and statins are still the gold standard, but the field is evolving, and hopefully we'll get to a point where people are getting a cost effective shot once a year or something like that. Dark chocolate, great, as we know. Usually the Ghirardelli size square is very powerful in antioxidants, like physical activity antioxidants. So that is not a bad thing, and actually a good thing for our endothelium. Coffee, thank goodness, this is still a good thing. And the cream in this one is not good, but coffee is still tons of studies and actually very, very helpful, reducing diabetes and all kinds of things. So that's fortunately still on the good list. I see a ton, I don't know about you guys, of undiagnosed sleep apnea. That feels like it's the unspoken epidemic right now. So I use an acronym in the office, STOP BANG, for the 8 things. If you have 4, you're at higher risk for sleep apnea. So S, snoring, tired, observed apnea, P for blood pressure, Bang is BMI greater than 30, age greater than 50, neck size greater than 16 centimeters, and gender being male. If you have 4 of those, it's a good idea. And, sleep apnea, for a while, I thought it was a scam. Probably like 15 years ago, I thought it was a way for pulmonary doctors to get out of the incredibly stressful lifestyle they have, but they were right. The data has borne out that it causes, untreated sleep apnea. Not only are the patient's quality of life pretty bad, they're fatigued, they're exhausted, but diabetes, coronary disease, peripheral arterial disease, hypertension, depression. So it's almost like eating a poor diet or not exercising. Unfortunately, it is rampant, and it has a lot of downstream ill effects. TAVR, I am long-winded as always, so I'll skip through this. To me, this is what they are doing with valves. This is a transcutaneous aortic valve replacement. Just to me, it's the most important thing that's happened in medicine and cardiovascular medicine in the last 25 years, where these patients are not having to have their chest cracked. And, we're getting to a point where tricuspid valves are almost there, mitral valves are almost there. So it's really important when you've got a 91-year-old that's going to die if they don't have valve surgery, and they can, have this done and go home the next day. So I think that's super exciting. We get asked about these, do I need surgery, as a hot topic. Family history, we know about family history. First degree relatives is the point I bring up. 6 times more important than beyond first degree, but everything adds up. So you guys just had a wonderful talk on the benefits of diet. When we get asked about this is Michael Pollan, for those of you who don't recognize, who's written wonderful books on nutrition and more recently psychedelic drugs, how to change your mind. He distilled his dietary advice into 7 words: eat food, mostly plants, not too much. And I love the simplicity of that. And it's something that we talk about. Eat food, meaning not processed, mostly plants, not too much. So I hope I have not been on mute this whole time. That would be incredibly embarrassing, because all I'm seeing are the slides. And it would be a great story for my wife when I get home. But then I want to show the video real quick. I'll just show a little bit. It's 3 minutes, which nowadays is like an hour and a half. This is Dr. Kataoka, who, before I started, recently retired from Hilo, Hawaii. He has never missed a walk, including on Christmas Sundays for the last 10 years. And this is his group, and he is the guy dancing in the middle of the field.
It might seem crazy what I'm about to say. Sunshine, she's here, you can take a break. I'm a hot air balloon that could go to space. With the air, like I don't care, baby, by the way. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Because I'm happy. Clap along if you feel like that's what you want to do. Here come bad news, talking this and that.
Okay. Great. Are we good?
We're good. That was spectacular, man.
Okay.
That was really spectacular.
I'm just so glad that I was on. I didn't. That's great.
That was really spectacular. I wanted to ask you, for obviously the physicians that are online and everybody that's online that wants to get involved, how would they set up a, Walk with a Doc local chapter in their community?
Yeah, thank you. So just reach out to us. It's walkwithadoc.org. Again, with a small team, and blessed to get the requests we're getting. We've got it down like turnkey, and we will just take you from soup to nuts pretty immediately. We started a chapter yesterday in Bloomington, Indiana. She reached out to us at, I think, 4:49 p.m. and she was all set up and done by 5:03. So
Wow.
You will get everything you need. It's just hit you're interested, and we'll give you information. And if you don't like what you see, obviously no obligation. And yeah, it's walkwithadoc.org.
Yeah, I mean, we're just changing the world one community at a time.
Well, I don't know about that. We have thank you for saying we have a lot of communities to go, but I will say that we're very blessed to be able to work with some incredible groups like CDC and the White House and national parks. And they are, I think it's the simplicity and that there's really low risk. If you don't like it, if it's not for you, great. But the way, again, simple person, I get 10 times out of it what I put into it, and our other leaders are seeing the same thing. And yeah, thank you. I obviously could go on for days, but
Tell
it's just
you,
an absolute joy.
So, Dr. Sabgir, I own a magazine, right, called Lower Extremity Review, and my editor just messaged me because she's on and she heard your presentation. She's been on all day, and she said she wants to put Walk with the Doc on the cover of Lower Extremity Review magazine, and just bring the message out, to the community and what you're doing and how clinicians can get involved. I mean, I think it's spectacular. Get them involved and get and involve their patients in this whole, wellness movement. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So we're all healthier, and we have better outcomes, and we heal faster. All the good. I mean, you said it all. I don't need to repeat it. I wanted to also do a little call out. There is the Lotus Health Foundation event that's coming up April 21st and 22nd in Rochester, Minnesota, and that's with May and Jang. They're putting together this in-person event and just a great experience. For anybody that's in the area, would like to learn more, the Lotus Health Foundation is where you reach out to. I also want to say a personal thanks to, Walk with the Doc, as well as Lifestyle Medical and Physicians Committee for Responsible Medicine, and the Veg Fund, for their involvement in this program. I also want to say one more thing before we get to some questions. I'm going to put up a quick survey that is sort of how we did, if you will. It shows it's this quick survey and all the speakers and how we did. So I'm going to post that. So the way to see that is when you hit comments, there'll be a little button. You could click on it. Probably take 20 seconds for you to fill it out. But we want to hear what you think of our event, what you think of all the speakers, and how they all rated. So Dr. Daniel asked, excuse me, is coffee dose prohibitive? Some people get good results, but then as you consume more, there's a reversal effect. Is that still the going thought process or different? And he also heard that certain caffeine is different from others. And can we use, I'm going to probably butcher this word, pentaxylphenone? I don't know. Or Raynaud's? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I don't. In regards to caffeine, there are a rare number of people that have ventricular arrhythmias, where at that point, yes, you should not be pursuing coffee, especially, if you find it. That's a very small percentage of people. I have not really heard a cap on the number. I mean, I'm not here representing Starbucks or anyone else, but I've not heard a cap on the number of milligrams of caffeine where it's dangerous. I always figured it would be more associated with atrial fibrillation than it is. But I have not seen a problem with it. What was it? I had some guy the other day who was drinking. It was called like Black Death or something for his coffee, and it had like 15. We looked it up. It had 59 milligrams per ounce, and this guy was drinking 32 ounces a day. The math worked out to like 1.88 grams, and he was a little nervous. I'm like, no doubt, but so yeah, no limit. As far as Raynaud's, to be fair, I don't treat Raynaud's that much, so I don't really want to comment on that.
Okay. Well, I know caffeine can be very addictive. I mean, I was drinking a lot. I only drink decaf now, decaf coffee. I was drinking a lot of caffeinated coffee, and I ended up in the hospital. So
yeah,
it can have a very negative effect if consumed in gross quantities, as I was. This is right. About 5 years ago now. So, yeah. Do we have any other questions for Dr. Sabgir? I know it's getting toward the end of the event, but we're obviously sitting here, and we're more than welcome to answer any other questions you have about Walk with a Doc or anything that Dr. Sabgir covered in the presentation. There's a lot of great information. So, yeah, I mean, if we don't have any more questions, then we could actually close up shop a few minutes early today, Dr. Sabgir.
Thanks so much for having me, and I really appreciate everything. This platform's amazing, and you guys have been great for taking the time to listen to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And, yeah, I mean, listen, is there inclusivity? Is there inclusivity? What do you mean that? I don't know what that is. Dr. Holt asks, is there inclusivity? Exclusivity. Oh, is there exclusivity? So is there exclusivity for a given community for a doctor?
Yeah, we do not. We do not do exclusivity. And the whole reason behind that is that, well, our response to that is just do it better than the next person. You can imagine that, well, as we all know, health systems can really get at each other. And despite probably some financial benefits we might have to pursue that, it's not the spirit of what we're looking to do. We're looking to get people out. And so no, we don't give any exclusivity, but it's a common question. And thanks for asking. We just ask you to make it better than the next person. And, as you can imagine, there are an infinite amount of time slots and parks where you can go to. So my dream is that, a podiatrist is talking on Saturday, an ophthalmologist on Sunday, a GI doc on Monday, and our community members can just go from park to park.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And plus, you're really walking with your own patient base, correct?
Yes, but you'd be amazed how many community members come out. There's almost always a story in the paper, and usually like the last 5-minute spot on the evening news or on the radio. So word will spread pretty quick, and community members come out.
Good. Well, we're going to help you spread the word as well through all of our resources. Absolutely. Very, very excited to help you grow this. And I think the impact is going to be great.
Well, I'm very appreciative of that. Thank you. It means a lot.
Absolutely. We're all in this together, and it does take a village, for sure. But thanks again, everybody. Have a wonderful afternoon. We do have another 3-day conference next week, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, worth 25 CME. And we're going to have Dr. Lai Jiang is going to be presenting a session on lifestyle medicine. We've incorporated that into the agenda, which I think is going to be fantastic. So we're going to continue to further this message through our editorial channels, through our social media channels, and everything else that we're doing. So really, and then, again, as May indicated here in the chat, there'll also be the event, Lotus Health Foundation event, April 21st and 22nd in Rochester, Minnesota, and you can look that up as well. Thank you all for being here, taking a Friday morning and afternoon. Appreciate you all. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Take care.